Hi everybody. In order to optimize the understanding of this video, you need to go through a couple of more videos before this if you have not gone through. They are the prerequisite to this video. You should have gone through the video on phrases and clauses and have understood what are subordinate clauses. Subordinate clauses are also called dependent clause. In short, we write it as DC. Now subordinate clauses are further classified as adverbial clause, adjectival clause and noun clause. In this video, we'll try and understand the difference between adverbial clause, adjectival clause and noun clause. Let's begin with the first, an adverbial clause. An adverbial clause functions as an adverb. Hope you know the basic meaning of an adverb. It qualifies a verb, adjective or another adverb. So what is the function of an adverb? It qualifies a verb, adjective or another adverb. However, we will be studying the entire adverb section in detail in another video. Let's see what are adverbial clause. I did so because I chose to. Adverbial clause are always introduced by subordinating conjunction. So here we need to trace, first of all, where is the clause? Because I chose to, which is being introduced by because. So this adverbial clause is modifying did. So this is an adverbial dependent clause. The independent clause is I did in this case. In the next sentence, they rested. This is the independent clause. The dependent clause is when evening came. So hope you understood what do you mean by adverbial dependent clause. Another important note is that adverbial clause is always introduced by a subordinating conjunction. Now let's move on to the next classification, that is an adjectival clause. An adjective clause functions as an adjective. Once again, I hope that you know the basic definition of an adjective. As of now, you just need to know that adjective qualifies a noun and adds something to the meaning of a noun. However, we will be taking this topic again in an independent video. Let's analyze an adjective clause in these examples. The umbrella that has a broken handle is mine. First of all, we need to trace the dependent clause. You can again make a note that an adjective clause is always introduced by a relative pronoun. So here we have that as a relative pronoun, has a broken handle as the dependent clause. The independent clause is the umbrella is mine. So you see that has a broken handle is giving us information about the noun umbrella. So this clause, this dependent clause that has a broken handle is behaving as an adjective clause. Dogs that bite do not bark. That bite is the dependent clause. Dogs do not bark. This is the independent clause. So that bite is giving an additional information about what kind of dogs. Let's move on to next example. Tina, who lived in Paris, married Tom. So the independent clause is Tina married Tom. Who lived in Paris is giving additional information about Tina. Hence it is modifying or qualifying the noun Tina. So this is the dependent adjective clause. Now we move on to the next classification, that is a noun clause. A noun clause functions as a noun. It may act as the subject, object, complement or the object of the preposition. It can take four functions basically as mentioned in the definition. Subject, object of a verb, complement of a linking verb and the object of a preposition. Need not worry if you do not understand the meaning of complement and linking verb. We'll be doing this in another video by the name of linking verbs. So let us find noun clauses in the following sentences. I will also give you a test to determine the noun clause. What he told me made me feel better. So here what he told me is the noun clause. I expect that I shall get a prize. That I shall get a prize is behaving as the noun clause. Life is whatever you make it. Again a noun clause. She was interested in what I spoke. What I spoke is the noun clause. But how can we differentiate between a noun clause and an adjective clause or an adverbial clause? I'll give you a simple test in order to find out if it is a noun clause or not. But what we need to understand is that sometimes a dependent clause, a noun dependent clause can also behave as the subject for the entire sentence. For example, in the first sentence, if you see, what he told me is the subject for made you can make a note that an independent clause may comprise of a dependent clause where the dependent clause can behave as the subject for the entire sentence. For example, in the first sentence, what he told me is a dependent clause, but is behaving as the subject for the entire sentence. Now let's move on to the test which I was talking about. To identify a noun clause, we use it-what test. What is an it-what test? Replace the suspected word clause with it or what. If the sentence still makes sense, then that word or clause is a noun clause. Let's put this test into action. Life is whatever you make it. So you replace the clause, the suspected clause, that is whatever you make it, with it or what. So we get life is it, life is what. That makes sense. So whatever you make it is a noun clause. I hope that you got how to apply this test. You can try this test. You can make another small note that independent clause cannot be classified. However, dependent clause can be classified under 3 subheadings which we have already completed. You can make a note of another 2 postulates which I have already discussed, that adverbial clause can only be introduced by a subordinating conjunction and an adjective clause can be introduced by only a relative pronoun. Now we move on to phrases. Like subordinate clauses, phrases can be classified as adjective, adverb or noun phrases. Let's see a few examples. A crown made of gold has been recovered. Made of gold is giving more information about crown and it is a phrase. What kind of a phrase? It's an adjectival phrase. Ram ran. So this is the independent. The phrase here is with great speed, which is giving us more information about it is an adverbial phrase. The boy wants to go home. To go home is the phrase. So how do we find out what kind of a phrase it is? The boy wants it. The boy wants what? So we just applied the same test, the it-what test, and we got it as a noun phrase. Let's see a few more examples. A golden crown. Golden is an adjective. A crown made of gold, again an adjective phrase. A crown that was made of gold. That was made of gold. This is a dependent clause introduced by a relative pronoun which is modifying crown. What kind of a clause it is? It is an adjectival dependent clause. We will do 3 more examples. Tom said that he was hungry. Let's trace the dependent clause that he was hungry. The suspected clause that he was hungry, let's put it to test with it-what test. Tom said it. Tom said what? Well, it does make sense. So what kind of a clause it is? Dependent clause belonging to noun category. A noun clause. Let's move to the next example. It was so dark that I could not see my hands. Here the dependent clause is that I could not see my hands. So that is modifying or giving for more information about dark. What is dark? Dark is an adjective. So this entire clause is an adverb clause. Let's move to the next sentence. The dog that bit me has been killed. The dependent clause is that bit me. That bit me is modifying the dog and qualifying and identifying which dog bit me. So this is behaving as an adjectival clause. So I hope I have been able to make it clear to you what are the different kinds of subordinate clause and how to distinguish between them. If you have not understood, you need not worry. We'll be encountering a lot many examples where you'll be able to clarify your doubts as well as your concept. If you have not gone through the video on subject and object, please go through it. Thank you very much.